Okay. So interesting thing today is what is the difference between a choir and Gregorian chant? I This is really only a conversation for people who are, uh, I guess, in the music space, and I am watching Rebecca E. Tripp's version of Temple of Time, and it's a very good version. It's actually one of the better, maybe it might be the best version remake of Temple of Time because it addresses, well, the good things about it is that her version has counterpoint. And what I mean by that is the original file of the Temple of Time, it was written on a cartridge that couldn't really play live sounds. It sounded synthesized by default, even though the composition itself is good. It will sound like a Nintendo 64. But fans love that sound either way, and people who love music, they do recreation, like recreations of the original song. And what that song always needed was an actual vocal, like human vocals. It didn't have the human vocals to it, and by design, that is the true way that the song should be heard, because it's very it's in, people might debate about it, but in my opinion, Temple of Time is directly inspired by Gregorian chants and the Catholic Church sound. I know there are different types of uh, Christian sounds, but I think it's very Catholic Church sounding, specifically the Gregorian chants. And Gregorian chants, as far as I know, were mostly made by men. So it's interesting. A historical note is that Gregorian chants were done by men, and therefore there are covers, vocal covers of guys who are doing covers of Temple of Time, and they did it in a Gregorian chant style. The funny part is that Rebecca E. Tripp did a included women in the choir because she added vocals that were reminiscent of, I suppose, the Gregorian chant and the here's the part where I'm like sort of asking musical people a funny idea. Um, Rebecca E. Tripp's version of Temple of Time includes women. I don't know that women were singing Gregorian chant in the era of, let's say, post 1100s to like the classical period, the 1700s to 1800s. I don't know if the the from 1100s to 1800s if women were singing Gregorian chants at all. I don't know. Um, so uh, the ironic part is that Rebecca E. Tripp included women in her version, and the the that version of Gregorian chants is her version is good because um, she added this counterpoint style. I don't know if counterpoint style is faithful to what I'm trying. The distinction I'm making is that um, good can be many things. However, in this specific scenario, what I'm talking about is that good. I'm defining good. I am defining good as um, the classical era. The classical era, like Beethoven and Bach in the 1600s and 1700s, They had this style of music called well, it still exists today, but I'm using them as an example. Using counterpoint, which is a musical technique where the bass line, which tends to be the baritones, or the bass, or bass, men who sing in the bass range, and then the melody, which tended to be, I guess, tenors or sopranos and mezzo sopranos and like that. Those ideas come from choir. Choir is not the same thing as Gregorian chant. So it's funny that we are mixing the styles of Gregorian chant and choirs from the classical period as this one thing, but it's not one thing, but it's just it my point is that Gregorian chants had more obviously obviously by nature it was more um, religious or spiritual by default because Gregorian chants are tied to, I guess, Catholic Church things, whereas choirs can be church related or not. Choirs can, because women may not have been singing Gregorian chants back then. So it is sort of funny in a historical way to include women in this Temple of Time remake because the Temple of Time was meant to represent Gregorian chants. And therefore, women were not singing Gregorian chants. And so, including women in a recreation of that song would not be historically accurate. So that's why that to me that was funny. Now, that doesn't make it bad. I'm just saying that if you wanted to be faithful to Gregorian chants, I don't know that women can be part of it. But again, that's not me being discriminatory. It's just historically, Gregorian chants may have included men more than women because women were not in the priesthood. That's why. Now, what makes Rebecca E. Tripp's version good is that she included slightly more musical variations than the Gregorian chant version. The Gregorian chant version is very dry, like it is straight Gregorian chanting. There is no other musical factors to it. Uh, the Rebecca E. Tripp's version is more similar to Kingdom Hearts Dive into the Heart, where they were able to recreate uh, uh, a live choir that had a live operatic choir in their in that song, and it does invoke that song. If you've heard Dive into the Heart, is very similar in it's very similar to Temple of Time, or at least the Temple of Time version that includes an operatic choir, because the feelings that it invokes is very spiritual and it's almost church-like. Aside from that, what makes Rebecca E. Tripp's version good is that she's adding the musical variation that she adds is counterpoint. The counterpoint between the female vocals and the male vocals, they're not all singing the same line. They're singing, like a choir arrangement. Like they are. There's the bass line, and then there's the soprano line, and there's the mezzo soprano line, the alto line, and the tenor line, and her arrangement has almost like the musical counterpoint lines are starting at different points, and so it sounds like a classical era type of sound, which is really cool. It sounds factually pleasing, like musically and historically pleasing. I just wanted to say that the adding the women vocals, while it adds to the sound of today, it would not have been historically accurate. So that was funny to me.